What's up? My name is Brock Dale. You're listening to another episode of Oak Performance Radio. What's up, y'all?
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Oak Performance Radio. I'm your host, Adam Lane. If you're new to the show, our goal here is to create some content, some fantastic content for athletes, parents, and coaches. We tell stories, have laughs, and go into everything that is the end game of athletic performance, helping athletes achieve their optimal performance and be the best they can possibly be. Enjoy the show. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Oak Performance Radio. I'm your host, Adam Lane. With me today from beautiful, hot Atlanta, Mr. Brock Dale. Brock, thanks for joining us.
Of course, man. Thanks for having me.
This is awesome. Brock, for the tens of people that listen to this show who might not know who you are and why you're such a big deal, tell these people who you are and why you're such a big deal.
I don't know about big deal, but brief background, played football at UC Davis in California, played overseas in Germany, started training athletes around 2018, and eventually got with USR, Universal Speed Rating. And now I'm the director of customer success there, helping other performance facilities help athletes get faster. So
fantastic. So Brock, we talked some USR on this little podcast, but for the people that don't know, dive into that. What is this USR you speak of?
For sure. So USR, Universal Speed Rating, it's a platform for analytics to really help athletes understand how they stack up to other athletes across the nation, but also for performance facilities to be able to validate the results that they're getting for their athletes to make sure that you're actually helping them get to the goals that you've set from when they started working with you guys.
So let's talk about that, because I think, so we jumped on with you guys half dozen months ago, maybe not even that. I find it interesting in this world of sport performance because there's so many variables. You're just talking about, you know, possibly going to a high school football game tonight, watching one of your kids who has gained some speed with you over the last year, which is fantastic. It's always, again, you play in a football game, so many variables. How's your offensive line? You know, are plays getting called for you? What in the way of like, hey, is so-and-so getting better? And it's really easy to get the warm fuzzies, and, you know, especially with kids, puberty hits, they get bigger and stronger and blah, blah, blah. But USR likes data. They like proof. I like proof because if my kid's going to do, you know, if I'm going to pay for my kid to do some type of sport performance training, I want to see him get better, not just rainbows and sunshine. Dive into that for me.
Well,
there's no question there, Brock. I'm just like...
From a personal perspective, it's nice to have the warm fuzzies and subjective feeling of maybe you look faster or things like that. But ultimately, what's the outcome going to be driven by is what's the truth. So I'm a big truth guy. It's like I want to know the truth about where I stand because that's the ultimate starting point for us to move forward and get better. And so I think having those numbers tested consistently, it's really hard to train without knowing exactly what you're doing each day. So to me, I think that's a good starting point of the discussion, I guess, is that if we don't know where we're at, we don't really know where to go. And that's kind of the general basics of it. And the platform allows us to do that within USR very easily and in a way that the athlete can relate to and understand. So,
yeah. In the way of testing, in the way of, and this is where I think people get confused, former track and field coach, people would time the conference meet with their thumbs, you know, and then we try to stack things up in sectionals and stuff like that. And it was so frustrating to me. And this is before like FAT timing became like so much more common now. Now they FAT time freaking cross country meets and whatnot, you know, in which to, but when you're talking about like trying to use your thumb time, you know, and your stopwatch to time a fly 10, I'm going to say it's impossible. A 40, I'm going to say it's impossible. I'm not saying you can't do it, but I'm going to say you're going to be about 0.24 off, give or take, you know, off of somebody's slow thumb time versus, you know, an actual FAT time and whatnot. When you guys look at data and the validity of the data, dive into what makes, because you can make data do anything, but what makes USR actually reliable data. And then we're not just, again, smoke and mirrors.
Yeah, for sure. Well, it starts with education. So you do need to be certified in order to be able to upload data into the platform. So that helps validate the testing modalities basically across the board. And then obviously our standard is timing gates. And so we want those timing gates to be one of our preferred vendors. And so again, that further simplifies the process of making sure these numbers are truly apples to apples. And so that validates the system across the board. Now we do distinguish between certain assessment types because there's different hardware for things like a vertical jump, right? But we keep that based on the community that you guys have. So within your facility, you're going to test vertical jump one way for all of your athletes. So that's the validity that we can bring for that assessment type. But for our nationwide comparative analytics, all of that needs to be done the same distances, same lasers, same setup, coaches verified and certified. And boom, now we've got a database of over 100,000 athletes and 500,000 data points that truly can be compared apples to apples. So
okay, 100,000 athletes. So that's good information because I've just been guessing numbers and it was less than 100,000. So I'm going to start using that number, which is fantastic because that's where I think kids think they're fast or they might be fast or they don't know if they're fast, and then all of a sudden they get ranked across. And it's really interesting because I love USR on that whatever primary screen, or profile page of an athlete. It'll show them that, their overall percentile rank by age, percentile rank by sport, percentile rank by gender. There we go. And it's pretty gosh darn clear. And it's interesting seeing, I think we have 120 athletes in the system right now, and more to come, especially with club volleyball starting up. It's really interesting to see how kids stack up and the validity within it. Question for you, Brock, as a strength coach, speed coach, performance coach, why, obviously, I'm a parent. I want my kid to be faster, blah, 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 blah. In the way of just tracking this stuff and whatnot, why is this such a big deal? Why do you do it? You coach athletes. You enter in the system. Why is this so gosh darn important?
For starters, personal, I want to make sure that I am getting the athlete better. So there's the personal validation first. Then I'm training athletes, not necessarily for free. So I want to make sure that there's an ROI from the person who's investing in me to help their child. And so this helps me to communicate the fact that the things that I'm doing to help this athlete are actually getting you the ROI that you're looking for from a parent standpoint. But ultimately, I think when you're looking from the athlete perspective is you do want to give them those hard truths of what it actually is going to take to get to the goal that they have. And a lot of people want to reach the top of or the pinnacle of whatever it is, D1 sports, NIL, whatever it is. There needs to be a realistic conversation about how much we need to improve to actually make that a realistic outcome. Because I think that helps set the stage for what type of work is going to be put in. So there's a lot of different applications and uses for it. But I would say that there's multiple ways that it helps me, which is why I make sure that it's something that I prioritize for my training. But from a programming standpoint, I need to have information for me to make adjustments. And I want to be data driven. I don't want to just be, stuck in the mud on this is my process and I'm just going to follow that. I want to make sure that I'm adjusting. If I'm not seeing the results that I'm looking for in the database, then I've got to be willing to say, all right, I got to go seek some answers for this athlete to get them where they need to go. And I can't do that without the information. So,
yeah, I think I struggle with strength coaches who go, and we kind of talked about this earlier, but the warm fuzzies where, they've gotten so much mentally tougher through this time and their confidence has grown. And that's great. I want your confidence to go up. However, I see your confidence go up more when you jump from 17 miles an hour up to 19 miles an hour. And you're like, oh, there it is. Or in the same thing you see, hey, I was back squatting this. Now I'm back squatting that, and now it's greater and I feel better. It's not just, again, warm fuzzies with that. I think, seriously, I think it's an error within our space. I think strength coaches will not look at the data. This is why we were Sparta Science force plates for 6 years and now Hawken after that. If numbers don't go up, the athlete's not getting better and there's an issue and it's either our fault, their fault or combination. And it's been both before, to be honest with you. We've had kids that oh, we're doing all the right things. Turns out they don't eat breakfast. Jack, eat some breakfast. And Jack's a real person in this case. Jack, I'm talking to you, Jack Wall. Okay, you should eat some friggin' breakfast. And maybe we're going to get past that 111 mark. 112? 111. I think he's a 111. We're just stuck there. Come on, man. Eat some breakfast. But no, I think it's really easy just to again, not actually look at if you're not getting better, which again, to what you're saying here, people are paying you money. They need to get better.
Right. And I've heard a lot from coaches who don't want to test. And I feel like it's sometimes so that they don't have that and they can just speak into and overcome it. It's not the best thing, I think, but at the same time, I think I can understand where maybe if you aren't as confident in the results that you're able to provide consistently or willing to take that dive. I mean, it is a risk. You're putting the truth out of your product to the world. And so there is a little bit of I guess, hesitation for some people to do that. But ultimately, I think when your focus is primarily around the athlete first, rather than like anything that you have personally, it's a natural progression to just want to make sure that you're on the right track, right?
Yeah. How you talked about adjusting and making changes as you go with stuff. If you have a kid who say they improve for a little bit and then they stop improving, as a coach, you reflect, you look in the mirror because you're smart, switched on coach, Brock. There are a lot of people that aren't. They're like, oh, this is just my program and we just keep going. And they watch and they just, woohoo, mediocrity ensues. As a switched on strength coach that actually cares about their kids to the highest level, what do you do?
Well, I'm blessed to have the community that I have at USR. I've got guys that I can reach out to and ask questions. I wouldn't consider myself necessarily an expert when it comes to the programming. So I rely on a lot of the community within USR to say, hey, for this athlete, this is what we're experiencing from the data. And oftentimes I'll get reaffirmed that you're on the right track. And it's just a matter of hitting your stimulus, right, percentages of your PRs consistently each week in order to see the progress over time, because speed is one of those sensitive things. But then other times it'll be a matter of, hey, this is something that you have a higher volume of what you're programming that probably they've got that bucket checked off. We need to spend a little bit more time here. As long as I'm testing the right things, there's more data for us to be able to say, all right, this is what we need to prioritize for that athlete. I know specifically for Bakari in the off season, I reached out to Jose Catano, another speed lab within our community. And we were talking a lot about what we were doing for our acceleration work. He's like, man, he's creating the force, but his air time is way too high. And so what you need to work on is frequency within the first 10 yards. And so he just made that slight adjustment based off of film that I was taking, based off the numbers that we had tracked in USR. And then within that adjustment, we really started working in the stride frequency within his acceleration phase, and immediate response to that helped our training take that next step. So I think it's having a community of people that you can bounce ideas off of is really valuable in those adjustments until you feel like you've got a good system in areas. I mean, I'm still a learning coach. I mean, I'm 31. I've got a good understanding, but I started primarily in strength. So that's what I feel a little bit more comfortable with. The speed side, I think for a lot of coaches can be a little bit more new and nuanced, and maybe something they haven't dove a lot into. So I have to rely on a lot of other people who are much more well-versed than I am. So
to go back, sorry, what was your kid's name one more time? Bakari. So was the switch there? He's too long and lopey and you got him shorter quicker? Was that okay. So it's almost like a run form adjustment here.
Yeah. And obviously we did have to, as we were getting closer to that 21 mark, then it was more stimulus based reactivity, stiffness, that kind of stuff was where we really needed to, because we got kind of stuck around 20. We were there for probably about 4 months before we were able to get to the 21, and now he's at a 21.75, I think. So it's moving. But there was a time where the big early kind of newbie gains came just simply from technique and drill work. But a lot of the struggle, like you were saying with the plateaus, is like I needed some additional insight. And with Spellman Performance and Dylan Carrion, co-founder of Spellman, he actually was starting to look at the data as well. This is just another example outside of Jose, where he was saying, hey, these drills done this way, things like RSI, like the 10-5, track those consistently. So there was a lot of people pouring into me as a coach and me seeking out information for those who knew better than I did. So
yeah. Dive into the speed thing, because you mentioned, hey, more comfortable as a strength coach than a speed coach. I feel like I'm in a similar boat, but as a former track and field coach, like I feel like I just got too far away from the speed. Like I knew it was there, but it's like, oh, we'll lift and get stronger, lift and get faster. But like, maybe. also maybe not. Talk about because parents could be thinking right now, listening to this. Kids could be thinking right now, listening to this. Well, I lift in PE class, and it's my third hour, and we front squat, and I get faster. So, like, talk about how those the strength and speed are separate, but the same point can important to come together.
Yeah, I think they are very much separate in the way that we leverage the weight room as a tool for speed. Because I can go into the weight room and strictly have like a bodybuilding hypertrophy mentality, and that's not going to translate to any of the qualities necessary for speed. There might be some foundational principles of increasing force, but that's not going to directly translate to on-field speed, right? So we want to look at the tools that we have at our disposal in a way that's going to actually get the outcomes that we're looking for. I oftentimes hear it from some of the quarterbacks I work with. It's like, I just want to go with my buddies to One Life, which is a local gym here, kind of your LA Fitness, and just lift with them. It's like, yeah, but you're going to be doing curls, you're going to bench, you're going to be ego lifting. It's like, that's not really sport specific type training. And so to me, I think that's where the disconnect can happen often, is that we're not using that tool of the weight room to develop the qualities needed to increase speed. And that's where the disconnect is. But you absolutely need to be able to produce force. You need to have foundational movement patterns in order for speed to be there as well. So they do come together. But then as you get more advanced as an athlete, we have to be strategic with how we use both of those things in tandem, right?
Yeah. But Coach Brock, I play fill in the blank sport, and I run and practice. Brock, why would I need to sprint with you?
I think there's been enough studies from practice standpoint is that stimulus isn't actually at 95% of our max velocities. So we're not actually hitting our stimulus at practice more often than not. That's one thing.
Dive into that. Break that down for people.
So from a very basic level and understanding myself, it's as simple as if I sprint as fast as I possibly can, I'm going to get within a certain percentage of my personal best. Not always at 100%, but depending on my CNS, my recovery, all that kind of stuff, how I'm feeling that day. But you're going to hit some level of percentage of your absolute best. So if I know my absolute best on my best day, most fresh, I'm at 20 miles an hour. Every day that I'm training, I might be close to that threshold, but not necessarily right at it, just because of all the other things that I'm dealing with. It could be as simple as I had a breakup, right? But those things do affect our ability to get to that 20 miles an hour if that's our absolute peak. But over time, if we can get as close to that as possible within 95% or more, at least once a week, you're going to start to see that threshold for 20 miles an hour slowly increase as well. So then that day that you're feeling fresh and feeling good, you're going to get that new PR. So I think that maybe is a decent way to start in understanding this principle. And within our training, we need to make sure that we're at that percentage, and you can't do that unless you're testing it. Right. So that's where the data comes in, and how, if we can implement that consistently and at least hit that percentage one time per week, we know over time, just based off of the thousands of athletes that have been studied, that you're going to get that increase in speed over time. And so that's kind of the basic message that I could give. And maybe, Adam, if you have more specifics you'd like me to dive into, that's as simple as I can make it.
Well, and I think that's great for people, because I think that we used to not time. We would just do fly 10s, and we have 40 yards of turf, and be like, hey, you guys are sprinting from this line to this line. And they would sprint. And I didn't time them, so I don't know. But I don't think they were going as fast as they could all the time. I think they were going as fast as they could maybe some of the time, and maybe not even for all 10 yards, even though there's a white big line in the middle of the turf that, they're supposed to start and stop at. You would think, be like, hey, this is easy. But there's something magical about when you put a clock to it, where, like, okay, now it's go time, and everything I got. And back from my track and field days too, like we did similar stuff. Like when we did have our kids do fly 10s, and we would do the initial, because we found different kids were wired up differently. Like some kids were very, very, very fast twitch, and then they were done. They were good for like 3 reps. And then on the 4th rep, they'd run they'd run a 1/10 of a second slower and be like, whoa, what's going on? My wife and I coached high school girls track and field, and be like, okay, Ashley, you're done. That was, you ran a, 1-2-1, 1-2-3, 1-19, and then you ran a 1-3-4. So you're done on the day. We had other kids that were a little bit more say maybe mid distance, it might take them a couple to warm up. Or maybe our warm up was bad too. I don't know which one it was, but it took them a little bit to, to get going. And they might last then, 5 reps, 7 reps, 8 reps, something of the sort. And so, until they started to tick down, but no, to the point, like, I think it's simple. Like if parents are listening to this, in order to get faster, you have to sprint as fast as you possibly can. You want to jump higher, you have to jump as high as you possibly can. And I didn't always used to think like that. Like we'd have our distance kids, we'd have our sprinters do like over distance training, and we'd have them run like 300s, or 350s, and you watch them die. Just like, this is not speed training. Like you watch them, like they look great when they're sprinting 100, and then all of a sudden you have them run a 350. They look like they were shot in the hip. And just like, what are you just gimping along? And, Brock, I don't know where I was going with that, but yes, I mean, just to make it easy for like to parents, like if you're not going 100% all out, it's probably not getting done. And if you hit a ground ball to the second baseman, you're probably not hitting top speed running down to first base.
Right. And I think even if you just put it as simple within the context of saying, hey, I go to practice and I'm running full speed there, you just don't know. And that's not a great place to be if you're really serious about the outcomes that you're trying to achieve. Right. So if you're really serious about what you want to go get done, we need to know. So that way we're hitting what needs to get us where we need to go. Right. I mean, it's a science. It's not guesswork. It's a matter of if we were tracking the right things when we need to track them, we can actually get to where we want to go. We will improve the things that we're focused on improving as long as we're tracking that and making informed decisions based off that data. So.
Well, and I think if you dial into, we're in the middle of football season here. I think the standard conditioning during most football practices that I went to in the 90s is we do 1040s. Like that was just thing, end of practice, get on the line, beep, and we'd sprint a 40. And I use the word sprint very, very loosely there.
Yeah, you might be going 80% on that first one.
Yeah, maybe. And we get done and we shake out and whatever, get 30 seconds to rest, maybe 45, beep, and we'd sprint again, sprint, quotes, not a real sprint. Was there a conditioning factor there? Yes. Was Adam actually getting faster? Oh, no.
Well, you were developing qualities that was necessary for your sport in the sense of endurance, right? Your energy systems, but how that translates to speed, I don't know how anybody could make a well-informed argument that that's going to be the best way to get faster.
Yep.
It's just not going to work the qualities at the level of intensity needed to get faster. So 100% with that. And I've learned a ton from even Tony Holler specifically on this of like conditioning is not speed training. Like we just need to lean into that principle, understand it. Conditioning has its place and it's necessary, but it's not going to be a tool for speed. Right. Yep. And just separating those two, and they're two different buckets as they should be, that we need to hit those two buckets, but they're not going to be treated the same. And we can't check the box off as if they are the same.
And I think that's really hard for coaches. I think that's really hard for whatever kids and parents. Like, I went out for a run, you just ran 2 miles. Well, that's great. You definitely did not get faster. Was there a nice cardio adaptation? Maybe, probably, maybe blood flow, you got outside, that's a thing.
You weren't looking at a screen. That's good.
Well, I honestly like reflective here. After high school, I got big into the triathlon thing, and it just kept getting longer. Went from sprint to Olympic to half. I did a full Ironman like
let's go
21 years ago, Brock. It was a long time ago. But then all of a sudden I try to pick them up and put them down now, and it's like all that. I think I LSD'd all the sprint out of me. And it's a thing. So I think that's confusing for parents and coaches. Like, oh, I want my kid to be faster, and they go run outside. Like, don't distance run. That's not helping. It used to be. I remember a thing used to be, hey, go out for cross country. For wrestling or for basketball or whatever it is. Oh, you'll be faster. You'll be in good shape. Well, yeah, your heart might be pumping, but you're not faster running up and down the basketball court, and you might be slower.
Yeah. Well, I think it's running at max intent with proper rest times, that equals speed over time, right? So the rest component of speed it's insanely vital. I mean, the recovery, without that, you can't possibly force your body to move as hard as it needs to reach those percentages of max velocity to actually force the adaptation over time, right? So that right alone is the simplest answer to why conditioning is not speed training, right? Yeah, I mean, I think we could just use your analogy of the 1040s. I mean, if you got 40 seconds and you know another one's coming, number one, you're not going to have the intrinsic motivation to run as hard as you possibly can on that next rep. Number two, you just physically don't have the capacity to force your CNS to go that fast. And that hard without the rest that's required. Typically 2 to 3 minutes minimum between reps is ideal, but sometimes more depending on the athlete and the duration. But ultimately, like if we just ran a sprint, we know max velocities are only going to be just seconds able to be held. Right. So about, I think, 2 to 3 seconds max that we have at the absolute max velocity if in just one sprint. So it's only something we can tap into for a short duration of time. We need to be able to get there, but we also need the rest to recover to be able to challenge our bodies to get back to that level of intensity. There is no more intense thing that your body can be doing sprinting full speed. Right. So it's not something to just overlook. Like, you got to recover, but you still have to hit that stimulus. There's no other way to get to that 95 or 100 of your peak without that rest. So,
yeah, you probably run into this too. We have to slow kids down. Like they'll do one, they'll look at their time and be like, oh, and then they'll run back to start. I mean, calm down, Sammy, calm down. No, but Adam, I'm ready. Shh, sit down, stop. 2 minutes. Yeah, 2 minutes, maybe more. We'll see how we're going. Then I'm seeing them stretching in the back and to get calm down. No, I think that's a big thing. I'm trying to remember what I read on Usain Bolt back in the day. But if you break down his, whatever that whatever he ran, 958 or whatever it was, like mathematically, he was able to hit top speed, which I forget what that was, but it was something ridiculous. And not only was he able to hit top speed, but he was able to hold that top speed longer than any other athlete has ever run in the 100-meter. And it was capped out somewhere. It was around 30 yards or so, give him 30 meters, whatever, like just around there. And again, going back to those like 2 or 3 seconds, that's all you have of like, and then
that's the best, right?
Yes.
Like, yeah. So,
yes, not me.
I would anticipate then we all fall a little bit below that, which means we probably have 1 to 2 seconds that we can sustain, right?
Yes. And that's why with really good training, with him, with his, elite training for years on years, for him to run, I forget how fast it was. It was right. Something.
I don't know off the top of my head.
27's not right? That seems too high. That seems high. 25?
It's high to me. 25 is like insane. So I feel like he might have been a 26 guy, but I couldn't tell you. I'm probably exposing myself as more of a football guy here. You see 21s and 22s in football, you're like, dude, that guy's lightning.
That's amazing. Yeah. But then to be able to hold that for whatever 30 yards, and then you're right, you come down a little bit, but if you're already running 25, 26, you come down to 24 and a half. That's still stupidly fast, and Brock, you said something else that was really good that I want to revisit. Time, rest, recovery. I don't remember what it was. Son of a gun.
Well, I know you were talking about sometimes slowing kids down, which I feel like is a new training thing that I know. One, I had to learn as a coach that I've got to change the way I do things. But then two, the change of your philosophy of like, hey, slow down, rest. Speed training is not conditioning, and having to train the athlete to do that is actually a process that you have to go through because the athlete's on the line ready to go for that next set of whatever you're doing. You're like, no, dude, we still got another 3 minutes. And that was a totally different mindset for them. But what we saw, which I thought was really cool, is that with more rest, they were more motivated on that next rep to work hard. And in less time, we got better results. Like it was crazy. It was the coolest thing. And then they loved it and they loved me because it was like, wait, I don't have to come here and feel like I'm dying every session to get better. It's like, yeah, that's not what we have to do every time. I mean, there's a time and a place for that just for character. No, I'm just kidding. But the idea is that actually for speed, pans out to be a much better outcome. So there is an adaptation as far as training with your athletes, though. That was something that I remember slowing my guys down. They were uncomfortable. I was a little uncomfortable. There's a lot of space, but then cool opportunities to grow relationships. So
yeah. Well, and how funny is it that, in the strength world, rest between sets is, very standard. Hey, we're going to do 3 sets of 5 on the back squat, and we're going to take 2 minutes rest in between. Like, that's very, and that just makes sense. Like, hey, I just squatted, 315 for 5. I'm going to rack it. Am I going to rest for 30 seconds, get back on? No, I'm going to rest, and then get back on. So I think it's funny because I totally agree with you here. The idea of this has been within the strength community for a while. You need rest between sets unless you're doing a CrossFit-y thing. Like, if you're trying to strengthen power, you need that rest. And in the sprinting world, and I'm going to say probably not track and field, because I think track has kind of figured this out. But like your football guys, your baseball guys, it's get back on the basketball guys, get on the line and go. And
I mean, that's just a limiting belief of change of like philosophy, right? You have the old school traditional kind of thing. And then we have to actually know what we're training for, and then adapt the old school principles and keep the ones that apply to that situation, but then also adopt the new ones that are clearly shown through the studies, right?
Yeah. Rock, if you're talking, you have a child, I forget, girl, right? Girl?
Yeah, little baby girl.
Name?
Scotty Lynn.
Scotty Lynn. Is that one word, 2 words?
So Scotty is her first name. Lynn is your middle. And we just often say both. It just kind of rolls. So
yeah. How do you spell Scotty?
Scottie.
IE. That makes sense. Okay. Gotcha. So fast forward here, 15 years, 14 years, 13 years. Skylin, obviously she has your genetics, so she's going to be a phenomenal athlete. And you're looking for, you don't want to train her because you're dad, but you're looking for an amazing sport performance coach, speed coach, strength coach, we want her just to be an absolute dog in whatever she decides to do. Because I want parents to listen to this and be like, and because it's confusing. There's a lot of strength coaches out there that do a lot of things. Obviously, I'm not looking for a shameless plug here, but like I feel like we try, like we're constantly adjusting things. Like I wish I could say that our program has been the same ever since day one that we've been open. It is not. We keep making adjustments. I'm in the middle of making some adjustments right now on our little Excel sheets because I'm like, oh, son of a gun, we need to just a little tweak. But like from a global standpoint, or people are listening to this wherever, and they want to do what's best for their kids. And keep them happy, healthy, and strong, and enjoying sport, which is really my goal as a dad with my kids. I try not to get crazy with it, but I also want to challenge them. I want to push them. There's a lot of good character development that happens through enduring sport. What are you looking for in a gym or in coaching to help a kid get better? Or what do you try to do on a daily basis with your athletes?
Well, I think there's 2 things there that I would need to check the box off on. When we look just for what I would want to be providing from an athlete outcome standpoint, I need someone who's going to be tracking what they're doing. So there's a level of accountability. I think that's one. I want to make sure that there's opportunities for us to identify where have we improved in a certain period of time, and understanding that's not going to happen tomorrow, but it will be a process, but at least we're tracking that over time. So that's one side of it. And then the other side of it, I think there needs to be, in my opinion, alignment with just values and principles. Because I think more so than an athlete that I'd ever want to build, as far as my daughter or any of my kids, hopefully, Lord willing, I'll have more. There needs to be an alignment with what type of integrity is being poured in and how does that look? Is it cussing to motivate, or is it building them up and calling them up to motivate? So there's like 2 pieces to the puzzle that I think are important to discuss. It's one, like, how do you build a relationship with my kid? That's what I'm thinking. And how I think about it when I'm with other athletes is what type of language am I using to get them to do what I need them to do? And then the other side of that is the process. Like, is there actually data driving decisions, or are we just making kids sweat? Right. So like there's those 2 probably that would be the biggest drivers. Right.
Yeah. Well, and I can see those working together in the sense of like when you're actually I feel like we're getting into a religious conversation here. When you're actually speaking truth to these kids, because the numbers that you have, the data that you have is accurate. Like those, and no offense to any strength coach using that, but the little just fly jump mat drives me friggin' bonkers.
Yeah.
Because we have the Hawk and Dynamics one, and kids jump in there. They're like, I only jumped 22. I jumped 32 at school. I'm like, dude, this is not the same. This is not the same. We're comparing apples and oranges here, and I can't have a conversation with you because I don't know what that looks like, and it's not the same, blah, blah, blah. But when you have good data that's nationally normed at a high standard, you can have real conversations. And then now we're going to really work through the process, like you were talking about, not just rainbows and sunshine, not just whatever. It leads to actual real conversations where maybe you need to dial in your nutrition. Maybe you need to actually go to bed earlier, put down, show me your cell phone or show me your time, whatever that, what am I saying there? The screen time. There we go. Sorry.
I get it on my watch, man.
It's been a long week, show me your screen time and I'll show you why you're not performing well. Like, oh, it was only TikTok 7 hours today. Like weird. So odd. At 3 a.m. Weird. That's so odd. Like, of course, it leads to real conversations that can actually lead then to real change, as opposed to, like, again, rainbows and sunshine, and be like, you just keep pushing, keep driving. Like you're, Matt Foley, a motivational speaker. Like,
well, that's the ultimate outcome that we're trying to get, is like the real outcome that they want. And when I'm saying they, is the athlete. They're coming to typically us as coaches with some level of gap in where they want to go. And so we can't really get them there unless we're doing some of those things of tracking and having the comparative apples to apples type data so that we can make the best decisions to get them where they want to go. Because it's always about where's that final outcome for that athlete. And those, I think, who really understand how to best get there, they naturally are the ones who are leveraging data. Right. So,
buddy of mine who actually was with Sparta Science previously and now with Hawken, Brian Buck, his group, his business does the training for Myles Garrett. And it's funny because you're like, what type of high level stuff do you do with Myles? This must be, at the most high, like he's doing all the same stuff, but he warms them up extremely well. He gets them on the force plate. He shows them where you're at and be like, okay, dude, you're ready to roll today. You're jumping within that 95%. You're firing all cylinders. We're gonna hit it. And then he dives down a little bit more into some of the metrics too that specifically Myles needs because of he's worth a little bit of money and you want to take care of it. But like it ends up being the same stuff. But he doesn't. I think this is my favorite thing. There's no BS with him. You're not just trying to inflate this guy's ego where when you've made that many millions of dollars, you have a lot of people around you saying, yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir. And, not that Brian goes against it, but he, hey, this is where we're at. We want you to be well. This is where you were. It's either better or worse or the same. So it's just funny how the truth is such a big freaking deal. And it's hard to measure, these things unless you have, the right technology and platforms in which to check, and assess such things.
Absolutely. And you almost bring up another topic we probably riff on in the future, but how it differs training from normal athletes that are at kind of the amateur level versus pro, and how much that does change sometimes people's philosophies, but ultimately it's the same science. It's the same adaptations, the same humans. Maybe they are at the top level, but like the science of what needs to be given to them in order for them to hit their goals isn't all that different. There's more foundational principles at the amateur level, right? But it is something that I've even experienced working with some MLB guys in the past, of like, you are as a coach tempted to feel like you've got to do something massively different, but it's not necessarily the case. Maybe you go in a little bit more depth, but the foundation's the foundation. So,
yeah. And Rock, I really don't drink, but what drives me to want to drink is watching strength coaches do the opposite of what you just described there. And while working with young, underdeveloped athletes with no baseline level of strength, throw them crap, that the Bears and the Falcons are doing. And they're a 15-year-old kid that can't squat to depth without falling over. And like, oh, bro, like you... Like,
build the house on a firm foundation, huh?
Yes. Like, come on, let's just do but it's not the sexy Instagram stuff. And it's like, like, that I get so frustrated with that.
Oh, I believe it. I can hear it.
I should not care. I should not care. I should not care at all. But it just like watching, like, oh my gosh, like if the door were to crack open, you would get sucked out of it. Like that's how little strength you have, in your body. But we're doing this weird isometric pull thing. I was like, oh. Sorry, Brock. Here, we got to change conversations or change topics, or I'm going to lose my mind here. Let's for the last little bit here. Let's brag on USR. Where you guys started, where you are now, and where are you going forward?
Yeah, for sure. Well, I think it all starts kind of organically with Spellman Performance and Les Spellman, him being our founder, and really through his story, it started out organically. He wanted to help other athletes. Started working with some guys, made a name for himself, helping athletes get faster. And he had this idea of how can we allow for the processes that we've been able to find for the athletes that he was working with be applied nationwide as fast as possible and get the data and all of this stuff that we've been finding of that actually effectively works for athletes in more hands of more coaches across the world to make a bigger impact for the athletes. That led to the software from a very rudimentary standpoint being developed to track normative data for speed so that athletes can compare themselves, really understand where they're at, but also so that coaches could make the decisions based off the information that was necessary. I mean, this is another tangent, but at the same time, coaches, we can get 180 different metrics on an athlete and only so many of them really move the needle forward. And so we've got to prioritize what is most important. And so that's where the algorithm was developed initially with USR. 2 years later, we're here today. Actually get going on 3 with a platform that's in the hands of over 250 different coaches across the nation. We have 200 speed labs specifically. And now I think the biggest thing is that we're providing more tools as we go and as we grow that are more specific to the needs of our coaches, custom assessments, more in-depth dashboards to dive deeper into the data. We're coming out with an app here shortly for the coaches to more easily enter the data. We're talking about.
I'm really excited for that, by the way. Thrilled for that.
Oh, dude, it's going to be great, man. We just went through a test flight of it this week, and it's going to be a game changer, man. We're super excited. I can't launch the date yet because we don't have that finalized, but a little teaser, it should be at least Q1 of next year. Probably early is our goal. Obviously subject to change, but really excited about the app. AI is what we're really discussing in depth as well, and how we can leverage that as a tool to more quickly get to decisions and more action for coaches based off the data. So there's a lot of really cool things coming. And when we think about our product and how we can, decide what can we build, because we could really build anything. The idea is, okay, well, what's going to measure the athlete better? What's going to make our coaches' lives easier? And then finally, how do we generate more revenue for our coaches? Those are the 3 pillars of how we decide what goes into our product roadmap. So there's a lot of things there. We're super excited about where we're going and where we're headed and already what we've done. And really our goal is to just continue to make Speed Lab synonymous with the best place for an athlete to train to get faster. And so that's our mission. That's kind of where we're headed. And there's a lot of different ways that we could get there, but we're going to use kind of our pillars and what's most important to us to get there. So,
yeah. Well, and the thing, we've talked about this on other podcasts, but the thing I want listeners to listen to, because we do a lot of volleyball, a lot of track and field. A lot of people hear speed and they just think running, which is fine. That's how it also goes. However, it's funny. We just scanned our local high school volleyball team, 13 girls. It's funny to watch them get faster. Sorry, we scanned them beginning of the season, scanned them middle of the season. You watch them get faster, and then they jump higher. It's insane. Like we had one girl jump from 16 to 18 miles an hour, and then her vertical jumped up I forgot what it was, 2.5 inches on the Hawken. Like legit, like there's no fluff with this. Test it multiple times. Just make sure we don't air out. But like, I don't want people. So I think sometimes when we say speed, it's like, oh, it's only running. But I do blankety blank in my sport. Oh, I jump. Well, yes, if you sprint really fast, you're going to jump really high. Like they're going to go together. And that's where the custom assessment piece, we added an approach touch into it for all the volleyball, because that's the number they really care about. That's the number, coaches care about, college coaches care about with the whole recruiting thing. Because then we'll have kids jump and they'll, hey, Adam, remember when I tested my approach jump 6 months ago? Do you remember what it was? No, Kylie, I don't. I don't remember that.
Go log in the USR, right?
Yeah, that's why I'm thrilled for this volleyball season. Like we're gonna test often, and it's gonna be in there because we don't do it enough, honestly. And then kids will go months without doing it, and then they might go down an inch or two, which screams at me, either our program stinks or the kids are doing too much. And it's tough with the travel, and the games, the tournaments, they'll play, over 3 days, they could play, a dozen games, or matches or whatever they happen to be. Like it's a lot on these kids, and they're tired and they're beat up, and they might actually tick down a little bit, which is a big red flag for me, saying, hey, well, we need to rest. Whether it be rest stuff in the weight room or, hey, we need to back off in practice. I'm not a sport coach, but then we have those conversations. And then I have the data to show hey, Sally's not going up. I'm okay if she flattens out a little bit during, this championship, part of the season. And, for club, it ends up being like May into June and stuff like that. Like I'm okay with that. We don't have to.
Right. We do want to regress. That's for sure.
Yeah. Like if they were jumping higher in December than what they are in March, we're doing something wrong.
There's definitely a backwards train of thought that I've seen consistently, and I haven't seen it with volleyball specifically, but baseball is a sport that I've worked a lot with in the past, and really having to just try to educate parents more on the fact that there's multiple buckets to increase your ability as an athlete. But so much of, if we have water as time, so much of the water's being poured into just one bucket, which is the sport specific, whether that's competition or the sport specific training, that bucket's overflowing so much that we're actually pulling water from these other buckets to try to keep filling this one that's already full. And so we got to be careful of that. It's like we've got time investment, money invested in this thing that isn't ultimately going to help you reach that next level. So don't forget to fill those other buckets of speed, of strength, and actually performance training, recovery, eating right. Like you don't always have to be in your season all the time. But the challenge here is, I think what parents feel is a pressure from their kid to be in a certain program to get recruited. That coach is telling them they need to be here and there when they need to be there. But ultimately, that's not developing them as an athlete. So we don't want to leave that bucket behind, because that'll be the biggest impact of what's the D1 versus the D3 offer that you're looking for, something along those lines. So, or whether you get an offer at all. All right. So we can't just be consistently filling that bucket that's just the sport specific. We've got to make sure that we're prioritizing those other things that help us to reach our end game, which is to play your sport. But we've got to be developing those other things that help you do that to the best of your ability. So
and it's so easy within the club sport realm, in which, some club sport is really, really good. I love what we do here with the volleyball club, and we're partnered with AHQ, baseball, softball, and I love what they do. There are clubs out there that are very much a money grab, and it gets a little.
Yeah, it's not all of them, but they're definitely there.
Yeah, and it's sad, because you really have to, like, again, you can play. I like your bucket metaphor right there, because I remember I'm going back to high school football. Like we tried to lift during the season, but we never really lifted during the season. And literally, I remember us losing our last game, on a Friday night, and me going back into the weight room on Monday and getting under the bench press, and 135 felt like it was 405. And like, oh my God. And thinking to myself, just 2 days ago, I played in my last game. I should have been stronger and more powerful, and, then I'd not like, boom. But we see the same thing with kids with speed, same thing with strength, same thing with the vertical. Like, if you don't, my buckets were not full or not balanced in your metaphor there.
Exactly. And that's all too many kids, including myself when I was coming up. And then, as coaches, a lot of our past experiences, pains that we had to go through to learn the hard way. And we're trying to help people avoid that moving forward. So if parents are out there listening, just make sure that you're filling those buckets evenly and adequately with the right professionals to get you the answers and the results that you're looking for. So,
yeah. And I think the biggest thing at the end of the day, the kids have to be enjoying it. Like they should come home from practice happy. You know, it should not be drudgery. I'm not saying everything's rainbows and sunshine, but like if you see too many down days over too many weeks, over too many months, like that, I don't think your kid's going to hang on much longer. They're going to want to be done. And that's just the sad thing. If you want to end and hang up your shoes based off of your own, whatever, that's okay. I get it. But if you hurt and you hate it.
Yeah, we're doing something wrong here and backwards. This is supposed to be a joyful thing.
No, not at all. Not at all. Brock, what did I miss? What do you wish I would have asked you that I didn't? We solved most of the world's problems.
I think so. Well, not all of them. I'd say the only thing that I would say is that we're all blessed and we have a lot more than we sometimes remember. And I think it's important for us to always count our blessings. And it'd be a shame for me to, as a Christian, not say, if you don't know Jesus and you want to learn more, always reach out to me. So,
dude, I love it. I did a podcast we have a second podcast. Brock, don't ask me why we have two podcasts, but it's one for our adult population, one for our youth population. But met with a lady today talking mental health stuff. And I always struggle talking about mental health stuff because like, if you just do things for you, like, I don't know how your mental health is going to be good or going to be steady. If there's not something bigger that you're doing it for. And I don't know. I love that you put that out there. Thank you for doing that.
Of course. For me, it's a calling on my life that if I have a platform, I want to make sure I point it to the right person because I'm not here without them. So doesn't mean that you have to believe what I believe, but I definitely know that I believe firmly what I do. And so I've got to boldly proclaim that when I get a chance. So
good for you, man. And if there's a platform to do it on, Oak Performance Radio is the platform. I mean, really, us and Rogan. I mean, it's pretty much the same there. So
love it.
Brock, I appreciate you taking the time. People want to reach out to you guys, see cool stuff about USR. Where do they go? What do they do?
Reach out to me. I'll go ahead and say we do have Instagram, Universal Speed Rating, and then my email, easy, brock@universalspeedrating.com. So feel free to reach out to me at any point. I'll answer questions for anything. So awesome.
And if you follow us on the Instagram, we tag you guys often whenever we do put up, dude, I love those little graphs. Those are my favorite things. All bigger. The kids love the graphs because it's so clear. Like betting you were here and now you're here. Like, oh, it's working. Like, yeah.
It's really good when the graphs are moving in the right direction, right?
Like my 10-year-old gets it. Like he ran as fast as he ever has. He was thrilled. He runs right over the computer, enters it in. The 10-year-old has it figured out on how to
make it simple. Keep it simple, right?
So awesome. Brock, I really appreciate you taking the time. You're a busy guy. We had to reposition this thing a couple times over. But I'm glad we made it work. We love partnering with you guys and having this real data because I just think it goes to, everything that we do and try to do and whatnot. And yeah, you're the man, sir. Thank you so much.
I appreciate you, Adam. Thank you for everything. You guys have a good one.
Yes. Listeners, thanks for listening. We'll catch you on the next one.
Ladies and gentlemen, thanks again for listening to another episode of Oak Performance Radio. Don't forget to check us out on the social at Oak Performance and online at www.oakstrength.com/Oak Performance. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time.